Hello, everyone. Ted Simpson here, certified Bob Ross instructor. And I'm doing a crazy painting. Well, not that crazy. Very simple painting based off of the Bob Ross basic set. There's just five colors in there: yellow, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, sap green. And it comes with the 1 inch brush and the small palette knife. Added to this little bit of color and tools, we added the fan brush too, so we can make our happy trees a little bit later. So I put on this 12 by 16 portrait orientation canvas. I covered it with a thin layer of the liquid white. You know all this. Put on a little section of the cadmium yellow across the top of the canvas there. Added a little touch of the alizarin crimson to give it a little orange cast, and added that to the cad yellow. Now it looks like we're caught up with the video. I'm loading a bit more of the alizarin crimson into my brush, working it in, taking my time here, and just add it to the canvas quick. Just fast, fast, fast. Get it on there. The less you mix it into the liquid white, the bolder, richer that red will be. And then I cleaned out my brush, just wipe it on the paper towel there. Blurring that crimson into the cad yellow there, trying not to work it across all the yellow, just softening it, letting it blend. And there you go. Clean the brush, soften as much as you need to. Now I'm adding a little bit more of the phthalo blue to my alizarin crimson, taking it a little to the blue side of purple. Just throwing it up top there. And whatever's left in my brush, I'll just throw it down into the shadows of the snow. It will become just back and forth, wiping it off. Now, if you wanted a little bit more reflective of the crimson, I just added some crimson into that shadow. Again, not a big deal. Who knows how much of this we'll see? Don't have to worry about it. So, with my clean, dry brush, we blend this out. Blend and blur as much as you need. As you can see, I'm taking a little bit of time here. This video isn't very long, but I'm taking my time and blending this out and making it look all pretty and soft. What I have going on next here is we're taking just a little bit of the titanium white, loading it onto that 1 inch brush, and pushing it onto the canvas. Okay, making sort of a sun glow rather than just a bright circle of sun. This painting is just going to have a sort of this bright area where the sun is just burning in the sky. There we go. Nice little bright spot there. Now, as we do here, we're going to start creating layers of trees from the furthest away to the closest. Don't need a lot of paint in the brush. I'm going to use that same purpley color that I created, a little bit of white in it to lighten it up, and then most of it is tapped out of the brush. You mix that color. You can see here I started out a little dark, but watch what happens when I'm basically out of paint. I made that one. Look at that. That's what I wanted at the start. Nice and light. Very little color. Making a nice little indication of bushes way off in the distance. Start with the lightest ones. And what I'll do is I'll add a little bit more paint to my brush, just a little bit more of that purple. And it'll make it look like a second layer is happening. You keep doing that as you go through it, and you just get layers and layers as we move inward, move closer to us. Look at that, a little bit more of the dark color, kaboom. Overlap a little bit of the previous layer, and it just looks so natural. It's a great first time painting here, like Bob um, did with this episode called Snowfall Magic. And there's a few other episodes where he does this. Just starts building his way forward, adding in darker and darker colors. But in this scene here, I'm just sticking with one value. Oh, I'm sorry, one color of different values, light to dark. So we often like to make this, oh gosh, think of like a cradle. The bush, the trees and such on the outside are big and tall and kind of looming inward, and then the ones in the middle a little shorter, and it sort of makes like a U shape, if that makes sense, or cradle. It's just to create a scene here that is just a little tiny section of the forest. Just a little snapshot. A serene little clearing, perhaps. Now, when we leave those distant, light looking bushes and trees unhighlighted, helps create less detail. So, when you put the detail on the closer ones, it helps with the perspective. So just a little bit of liquid white, titanium white, whatever color I happen to have in my brush. A little touch of that purple. If it tints it, that's fine. So we got the big old tree on the left here, just a slightly different angle of my brush. I find Bob's technique of working basically from the top down works the best. I try not to go up. I don't want to overlap and tap over as I'm going up, which is really easy to do. Yes, sometimes we go back and sneak a little one in at the top, but just basically we work from the top down. Now we gotta create the start of our land here. So titanium white fan brush. See how I'm using the corner of that fan brush pulling inward? It cuts off those bushes, and that's where they grow up from. There we go. Clean that up a little bit. Don't need a lot of paint. Don't want to overwhelm the scene with pure white. But with my clean 1-inch brush, it's all nice and cleaned out with a paper towel. Now I can push and blend and soften that, barely touch to take out any lingering brush marks, and then move on. Try not to overdo it. Already I could have stopped, 10 or 15 brush strokes ago. With a little bit of that dark color I used for the bushes, for the trees, I create these little bits of stuff. Some sticks, some twigs, just ground cover. Now it's really helpful to have a couple of fan brushes. You could stick one for use for the darks and leave one for the lights, and it's a lot less brush cleaning. So just as we did in the background there, I'm going to create some shadows and a little bit of more snow for this mid-ground, cleaning it up. And then that 1-inch brush to soften it even more. Look at that. I think we're about ready for a big old evergreen tree after I get some highlights on this ground cover. Frosty, little frosty tips there. I think we're good to go. Now I have a bigger batch of that purple mixed up. Crimson, enough blue to make a nice dark purple. And we're ready for our big old evergreen. Little tippy taps at the top. And it's a big one here, so it's going to get wider as we go down. Let those bristles bend and deposit the color and reload often. Put in some ground cover at the bottom of that. Look at that nice little feature there. It kind of reminds me, like I said, of Snowfall Magic. It also reminds me a little bit of Bob's episode called Through the Window, where we put in layers and layers of evergreen trees. The highlight color I'm creating here, we're going to do a two-stage highlight. I added some liquid white to my titanium white and a little bit of the phthalo blue. And I'm basically doing the shadow side here. We're highlighting with two different colors, so we'll put in the dark color first, so to speak. The cool shadows, I should say. And you want these significantly different looking than just the pure snowy white highlights we're going to do next. I could have added a bit more blue. So you do have to stop and clean out your brush. Really, I just sort of squeezed it out of the brush, wrap it with a paper towel, and pinch the excess color away. You don't want to put that much into the paint thinner, you know? It has to be pretty free from paint before you clean it with the thinner. Just helps tremendously at not contaminating your thinner as quickly. There we go. So then I go right back into it, just this time, no titanium white. Sorry, no phthalo blue in my titanium white. Just liquid white, titanium white, bringing it on down. Finding those nice frosty bits. And we gotta put in some ground cover, highlights to the ground cover. Now I could have done the snow first and then the highlights after. You can make it work either way. So once again, clean it up first, figure out, get it started with the fan brush and then clean it up and soften it with the 1 inch brush. I might do this one or two times here to get that perspective correct. You see those angles I'm pulling? I want to make sure the shadow color underneath starts moving in the direction I want. Now, the more shadows you leave, the more natural this tends to look. You don't want this to be stark white everywhere. Maybe you do, but if you don't want it to look like noon in the Arctic there, let the shadows be. Bob would say they're your good friends. So there we go. We got a nice little scene created here in just about 20 minutes. And I know I'm not a huge fan of the voiceover video. It's a little more work on my part here, so I'll get back to full live audio with my video here next week. Until then, thanks a lot.